Blog Talk Radio.
Playing Sport City Chefs from Amazon Music.
Yeah. Woo. Let's go. Y'all need to sit back, listen, enjoy the vibe. Sip something, light it up, enjoy the ride. Cause the Sport City Chefs is on tonight. In the kitchen cooking up, they on the rise. Sport City Chefs, Chefs. Sport City Chefs, Chefs. Sport City Chefs, Chefs. Sport City Chefs. Yes, Lord, we got a brand new president. Joe Biden, we riding, I pray you heaven sent. Word from the wise, my people stay ahead of me. Come on, I've been relevant, trying to survive the elements. It ain't no love in these streets, these dudes telling it. Case go from cold to hot, states evidence. Kaboom, Sport City Chefs is in the room. Cooking up hot topics to put up on your spoon. They well in tune, bloom like a flower in June. Superman verse MF Doom, the clouds loom. So tell a friend it's the Sport City Chefs again. Pay attention, tune in, we on the set again. Sport City Chefs, Chefs. Sport City Chefs, Chefs. Yeah. Cabby, Taj.
Connecticut.
Home sweet home, y'all. Sport City Chefs with Power 103 Radio. We about to set this thing off. Welcome to the Sport City Chefs Roundtable. We have a guest in the building, and the chef that you know so well. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you are here with Sport City. I'm going to get my co-host in here as best as I possibly can, calling out of the same region as me in this feathery white winter wonderland. But we got a villain in the building. Barry, welcome to the Roundtable. How are you feeling this evening?
Villain, that's why he brings his own needles. Bit more cheese than Doritos, Cheetos, or Fritos. Flip like Freudian. First and last step to play yourself like accordion. The villain's in the building. What's up? I'm feeling good today.
Look, and he over there cheating like his first grade pick today. I can't wait to get into this thing. Sports City got another chef in the building, calling out of the mountain region. We got Big Easy, a.k.a. Eric G, in the building. How are you feeling this evening?
Yes, sir. I'm here, bro. Feeling great tonight. We got a great show for everybody, so let's get the kitchen open and let's get this started.
Okay, last but not least, we have a special guest in the building. We've been talking to this guy for some time. He hosts a show called Pint Football. Check him out with his podcast. Him and his co-host, they do great work. We have Brad Fowler in the building. Brad, welcome to the Roundtable. How are you feeling this evening?
Doing good. Really excited to be on the show with you guys. Can't wait to dive into some of these NFL topics, and really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Definitely. So let the people know more about you, like what are your wheelhouse sports, things of that nature, because I know we're in front of the beast of, the major sports right now in the Super Bowl, and that's what we're going to probably have majority of the show we dive into. But, like, the sports that you follow, things that you like, and, dislike if you want. We want the people to know you here. So tell us about yourself, Brad.
Yeah, so I'm the creator and host of Pint Football podcast, like you had mentioned. It's on Apple, Spotify, all the major apps. You can find it there. We do a weekly show where we break down NFL topics. We talk all things NFL, from betting lines, game previews, recaps. We talk a little fantasy football, really anything and everything that has to do with the NFL, a little bit of college football as well. We break down the NFL draft in April. Season 3 is going to be starting in April, where we're going to do a bunch of NFL draft coverage. But that's getting ahead of myself because right now we've got an NFL Super Bowl preview episode that's about to drop here soon, and it looks like that's what we're going to focus on with you guys tonight. So I'm really excited to talk about the big game. I know everybody is excited for this one.
Okay, so I'm going to set this off right? So we're going to go back and forth, and I'm going to go, conference team by conference team on, each side of the spectrum. So since I'm going to make you feel right at home, since you're a West Coast guy, I'll start it off with the AFC West, the guys that have won this Super Bowl last year, so they're defending their throne in the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I mean, your thoughts on this team alone, but I want to go, position by position. Well, not position by position, but like staff versus staff, if you will. and save the best for last with the quarterback situation. But your thoughts on this defense to get out the gate to try and slow down the GOAT, if you agree with it, in Tom Brady. I don't know how you feel about Brady, if he's on your good or your bad side, but how do you feel about this defense on Kansas City on this side of the ball?
As far as Kansas City trying to slow down this Bucs offense, I think their strength, if you look at the Kansas City defense, their strength is really in the secondary. They've got a strong secondary. It's a pretty underrated unit. It's a unit that could really match up well with these wide receivers, with Mike Evans and Godwin. And Antonio Brown, as we know, is a little bit questionable right now. Hopefully he'll be able to play in this one. But we know the Bucs have got some firepower. Gronkowski, he's been a little quiet, but he's a guy that you can't overlook in the passing game as well. And so I think the secondary actually matches up pretty well in this one. But that's a lot of guys to stop in that secondary. I do think Brady will have some success throwing the ball, but it's really going to come down to the offensive line. We know Brady's not a mobile quarterback. He's a guy that's going to sit back there and pick you apart, but he's going to have time to do that. This offensive line has really gelled in the last 6-7 weeks and throughout the playoffs. They've looked really good, and they've given him a lot of clean pockets, and that's why we've seen so much success from him. Now, the Packers got a little pressure on him in the NFC Championship game, and he made some un-Brady-like throws in that game, and they were able to hang on for the win, as we know. But I think if he can get a clean pocket, that's going to be key. And the other key to this matchup, as far as the Bucs, on the offensive side of the ball going up against the Kansas City defense, is I think they're going to have to be able to run the ball. I think that's going to be pivotal for this Bucs offense to bring that balance and to keep the pass rushers like Chris Jones and some of these guys for Kansas City really to try to maintain that balance and that balance attack, getting the rushing game going with Leonard Fournette and Rojo and get these guys going. And that's going to set up some play action. It's going to set up some easy throws for Brady as well. So that's something I'm definitely looking for in this matchup.
Okay, Barry, I'll let you go next.
Sorry. Barry, of course I was on mute. You know, Butterfingers. Listen, I agree with Brad. Kansas City does have a very strong back secondary. Tyrone Matthew is the guy that he's like the rover. He's like their multi-purpose Swiss knife. He does a little bit of everything, gets in the lanes, can attack the line of scrimmage, which helps against the run. And then he can, against the pass, he's very strong as well. It's going to be hard to match up with those receivers. I think Brad hit on the fact that health might be a little bit of an issue as far as AD, but they have Gronk. There's weapons everywhere. I mean, Brady did himself a favor by going to a team that had a lot of weapons when he was bereft of weapons in New England. So it's hard to match up with those guys one-on-one. I think the key for Kansas City is to get that pressure up the middle. I think when you get guys off the edges, Brady can kind of see it and step up in the pocket, slide a little bit. But when that pressure's up in he can't really do much of anything. So I think that's going to be the key. But going to Kansas City, listen, it's like they were kind of on autopilot all year, kind of waiting for the playoffs to get going. They did enough to win games. They weren't overly impressive in games, but you weren't really good enough to beat that team. Congratulations to them winning the AFC. Andy Reid just keeps cementing his legend. I mean, it's funny. A year ago, you're talking about Andy Reid being one of the biggest choke artists as a coach in the league, and now you're looking at him as one of the better coaches in the league, getting that one ring and on his way to a second. So, it's going to be interesting to see, how the matchup goes, because they did face each other during the season. Kansas City got the best of that. There's going to be adjustments. Todd Bowles is a smart coach on the defensive side, so it's going to be interesting to see what Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid kind of figure out what to do against that defense that's pretty stout.
Okay, and Eric, your thoughts on this defense going up against the GOAT and Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Your thoughts on the key points that this defense needs to focus on?
Yeah, and I agree with what the panel's been saying here. It's going to be hard to stop on offense, when you got Leonard Fournier, Ronald Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Rob Gronkowski. So the only way they're going to be able to pull this off, they're going to need Nandi and Clark to be getting in Brady's face and, just pressuring him all game long. They got Tyrone Matthew, who's, a beast out there. Daniel Sorensen has also been playing really well. So they're just basically going to have to rely on getting pressure to Brady. If not, unfortunately for the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe their reign is going to be, they're going to be dethroned in this Super Bowl because they're just, their offense Tampa Bay has is ridiculous. So, and you got the GOAT at quarterback, and we all know what he can do. So if they don't bring pressure, it's going to be a long day for Kansas City.
This is the crazy part of the show right now where I have to bring the heat right now. I really think, and I may be wrong in saying this, Kansas City's defense has the most pressure in this game right now. Kansas City's defense has the most pressure in this game. They have to get to Brady. Of course, this is going to take a whole unit. All 11 are going to have to take care of business in their responsibilities. That front line is going to have to rush without any blitzing if they can. If they could get to Brady without it, this helps them because we already know what the Giants were able to do to him twice was to send the pressure with the 4 guys, and if they can sack him, then it makes him think. You got to get Brady off of his cue, especially with him being older, knowing that he can't move like he used to, even though he never really did. Then they have to win their matchups defensively in the backfield, too. Honey Badger is one monster in his own right, but these corners have to be on their P's and Q's. And, of course, this is Antonio Brown's first Super Bowl, so they have their hands full trying to stop him and dealing with the likes of Gronk and, Godwin and Evans all together. So I don't really want to spill too much of what Tampa Bay has because we're going to have a whole session for them when we spill into this. But this Kansas City defense has been doing it kind of quiet on the year, if you will. And, of course, we know that Kansas City's offense could come out and put up points in a bundle. But you just got to think about his defense trying to slow Brady down, knowing that he's been at this game 9 different times. This will be his 10th appearance. So they know that he's seen a lot of everything, and including Andy Reid. He's seen Andy Reid here, too. So believe me, their hands are full, and I think a lot of pressure is on this Kansas City defense, especially with the games that they did lose this year. They were getting beat over the top, including one of those plays that I can't forget was when Ruggs beat them deep when they played the Raiders, and this was in Arrowhead, where I thought they were virtually unbeatable. So this can actually go against them, but this Kansas City team did win up against Tampa in Tampa earlier this season. So this is all set up with some fireworks to set this off. How do you feel overall on what we mentioned so far, Brad, before we move to the next unit?
Well, I like one point that you made there about the Week 12 matchup. And that Week 12 matchup, when people look at that, Kansas City went up big early in that game. It looked like they were going to run away and hide with that 17-0 lead. Tyreek Hill really torched that Bucs secondary. But if you look at that game, if you look at that game, the Bucs
203 yards in the first quarter.
He was absolutely lighting them up. The Bucs battled back in that game, but if you watch that game, Tampa Bay played a lot of man coverage with a single high safety, and especially in that first half. And what that did is what they were trying to do there is they were trying to focus in on Kelsey. They were putting that extra safety closer to the line of scrimmage, closer to the box, so that they could pay attention to what Kelsey's doing. And what ended up happening is it left their corners on an island, and they didn't have that over-the-top coverage to slow down a guy like Tyreek, and it backfired. Now, in the second half, the defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, made some adjustments, and he started playing a lot more cover two deep safeties to take away some of those deep plays, and they started playing a lot more zone coverage, and they had a lot more success. They rallied in the second half. They had 14 unanswered points, cut the deficit to 3, and almost pulled off a big comeback. So I'll be really interested to see what kind of approach, what kind of adjustments we're going to see from these coordinators. Knowing that they have played each other and they are somewhat familiar with each other, I think that's a fascinating thing to look for in this game.
Eric, I couldn't agree with you more. The second half adjustment that Bowles made was really key. Going from, cover 1 basically to a cover 2, it kind of forces you either to the sidelines or try to get Kelsey down the middle. But if you're playing zone underneath, it kind of covers them up a little bit. So they did make adjustments and slowed that offense down. I agree with you. Because they were kind of in the mindset of like, okay, Tyreek Hill's going to get his. We can't let Kelsey get his as well. So they tried to pick their poison, and it didn't work in the second half. Bowles made the adjustment and made it a close game. So I expect to see more of that in this game. Now, Andy Reid will have a little bit more time, 2 weeks to adjust to that cover two. Now you're talking about bringing, Tyreek Hill across the field in a streaking formation, and then, just that combo route underneath that Kelsey runs the little post or the little skinny in underneath the long drag route across the field. They're going to make adjustments, and they're going to find a way to get these guys the ball. I think if they play in cover two the whole game, the running game is going to be huge. Can they get the running game going with whoever they got running the ball? Because if you got two deep safeties, that means you got at least 7 in the box. That's a matchup nightmare for most good running teams. Can they take advantage of that? So we'll see if they do, if they keep running the ball, if they stick with it, or are they going to try to force the ball into throwing the ball down the field? Other than that, I think one of the big keys, and we all kind of touched on it, is the fact that Kansas City doesn't get pressure. I think they're ranked, in the bottom half in getting pressure. I think, I want to say 20, 25, 26 or something like that. Their pass rate against, a 4-man rush is bad. It's not much better when they bring the blitz. They don't get a lot of pressure. I think you're looking at Chris Jones, the tackle, has 7.5 sacks. I think Frank Clark, the edge rusher, had about 6. He had 2 in the playoffs, which is good. But if those guys don't come to play and start getting pressure, especially I think Jones, getting that pressure up in front of Brady's face is key. If those two guys don't get pressure, it's going to be a long night for that Kansas City defense. So that's one of the matchups I'm going to be looking for.
Okay, Eric, anything you want to add before we get away from the defensive unit?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. They're just going to have to bring pressure, plain and simple. You know what I mean? If Brady is able to have protection, he's going to sit and just pick this defense apart. So and the Buccaneers will win easily. So they're definitely going to have to bring the house, and they're going to have to keep pressure on Brady all game long.
Okay, so now we get to turn this thing up because I feel like it went from a boil to like 4-alarm blaze, and then we're going to be in volcano. Now the battle of the special teams in favor of, I'm going to keep everything AFC in Kansas City. Now, this makes it interesting on Kansas City side of the ball because in the words of John Madden, speed kills. And it's like anytime they touch that pigskin or that leather, it's NASCAR. like it's not even like football anymore. It's like a whole nother sport, how fast this offense runs. So I want to see how you feel about this, Brad, as we throw this one around the table, and see how you feel about the special teams edge, as I feel this actually favors Kansas City with the likes of Breland if he goes back there, or if they get Hardman to go back there and receive some punts or things of that nature. I think this does favor them. So I don't even want to start throwing the fumble or interception part of the game, which it will be a part of the game. I know turnovers will happen. But if, let's say Tampa Bay goes 3 and out, they have to cover the field as best as possible. Your thoughts on the special team side of the ball, at least for Kansas City at this point?
Yeah, I think special teams is one of those things we tend to always overlook a little bit, yet they always seem to play a factor, especially in these big games. And so I think it could be a factor in this one. If you look at Tampa Bay's special teams over the course of the season, they were actually one of the worst-rated special teams units in the NFL. So I do agree with you. I think there's a big edge for Kansas City in the special teams in this game. Although I will say this, Tampa Bay had some really nice returns in that NFC Championship game. I believe the guy's name is Mickens, Jaden Mickens. Yeah, their kick returner had some really big returns in that game versus Green Bay that really set up Brady in this offense with some really nice field position and gave them a lot of momentum in that game. So I do think if you look at ranking-wise, yes, they're not very good. One of the worst in the league. I think they were 31st in the league ranking-wise. So they're definitely not a unit that you would say is a strong unit for them. But I do like what I saw recently. I think if Mickens can have a good game and can set up some of those big returns and like they did against the Packers, it could bode well for them. But on the other side, they're going to have to tackle, and they're going to have to keep these guys pinned down because just like you said, there is so much speed for Kansas City on special teams. They have so much speed that you don't want them with a short field. You don't want to give this offense some gasoline on the fire, so to speak. You don't want these guys setting up at midfield to start their drives. You want to make them go and be methodical and try to work their way down the field. You don't want to set them up with a short field. So I do think that is something that's fascinating to look for in this game. Who gets the best of that matchup and who can set up their offense better in the return game.
Okay, Barry, your thoughts on the special team side of the ball for Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean, I like Kansas City's special teams. I agree with Brad. I think that, the return game is going to be a little difficult, but I think Kansas City has a slightly better return game because not only do they have the guys, the horses in Townsend, and I think Pringle is one of the return guys on the kick and punt returns that can return it. But they also have that wild card that they could put Tyreek Hill back there if they actually wanted to in a pinch, like if they need a spark or something like they needed last year in the playoffs. So I think that's a slight advantage that Tampa Bay doesn't really have the luxury of having. I think the kicking game is going to be key. I think both teams have really good kickers. I think Suffolk for the Bucks and then Butker for the Chiefs. I think his range, Butker, is probably going to be the deciding factor. I think he's had a long field goal, about 58 yards this year. So if I'm looking at that, if you're looking at the defenses that, hey, especially if you're Tampa Bay, you want Kansas City to go up and down the field, but once you get into the red zone, you want to kind of shrink the field, use the back end zone as an extra defender, and kind of keep them out of the end zone. If they do that, I think the kicking game becomes very important. I think Kansas City has a kicker with a slight edge. So I think Kansas City, all in all, I think it's an even matchup on the special teams. I think for the most part, though, Kansas City has a slight edge with the punter and with the kicker and with the returners. But, Tampa Bay does have a solid kicker in Suckup. And he's I think he only missed 3 field goals this year. So, both teams, don't have that quote-unquote question mark in the kicking game.
Okay, Eric, your thoughts on Kansas City and their special teams efforts? How do you feel their edge? Well, I feel like this is actually the edge given to Kansas City. Do you agree, disagree, and anything that you'd like to add that hasn't been mentioned?
No, I agree with you, Ty. I think Harrison Butker's a little bit better kicker. Suckup has been having a great year. But I look for Tampa Bay to be using Tyreek Hill as a punt returner or kick returner in this game. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? The guy's electric. He's the fastest guy in the NFL. So why wouldn't you put him in the biggest game of the year? So I look for him and Hardman to get a nice dose on sharing time on the special teams. So I give the edge to Kansas City simply because they got Tyreek Hill. Even though Mickinson has had some good games, but still, you're going up against Tyreek Hill. So, the odds are definitely in Kansas City's favor here.
And that's interesting that you bring that up, Eric, because I look at it like this, too. Like, they have a ton of speed on the side of the ball with Kansas City, and this is what makes them ultimately dangerous, I think about it. But this is what I'm really wondering. Do they really risk putting Tyreek back there? Because
I think it is because it's the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, but that could be one of those high-hanging punts, and he's waiting for it to come down, and somebody times it at the right time and hits him. And he could be out of the game on some bull crap. Like that's what could potentially happen. And I don't want to see Tyreek out of the game because I want to see how Tampa Bay could try to slow him down throughout the nuances of the game. You know what I'm saying? Or McCole Hardman, I mean, he did have a slip-up in the last game where he got down on himself, but he actually made some plays to come back. So this is something that I'm looking close at if they go with Hill or they stick with Hardman or they have guys that can go back there and return the punt, they are, indecisive on what Watkins is saying. They're saying that Sammy will actually try to give it a go, but it's not a definite as of yet. But knowing that they at least have 4 people that can go back there and retrieve the punt. But to me, the way that I feel that Andy Reid would look at this, of course, he probably put him back there for the punt, but, you don't know if there's something on that sideline. They yo, hit him. Any way you can get a shot on him, just rough him up. He's almost as dangerous as the quarterback. If I want, of course, I'm going to say Mahomes is more dangerous as a quarterback because he could hit a lot of the targets we're going to get into shortly. But just knowing that Tyreek is like the field shifter, if you will. If he sees a gap, you guys better close it whole hands and say it like me. I just don't know how you slow this guy down, at least in the return game. Like I said, this to me, I feel like it favors Kansas City up until this point. That's the way I feel about that.
I think the flow of the game is going to dictate if you see Tyreek Hill returning the ball. I think if there's desperation mode, I think you put him back there. I mean, at the very least, you're trying to kick it. You're trying to kick it away from him. Maybe it goes out of bounds and you get good field position, so maybe he doesn't have to return the ball. But, you wouldn't kick it directly to him because he could break it at any moment. So I think it's just kind of that kind of thing, just like the Giants used to do with Odell Beckham. If they see him back there, they don't try to kick it to him. They try to kick it away from him, and you try to win. You try to flip the field possession game. So that might be just a way to do it. Watkins is, he's dealing with the COVID, so I think he's still in protocol, correct? I mean, he might try to give it a go, but we'll see what happens. So hopefully he does play. But I think, like I said, I think it's a feel for the matchup at that point in the game. If Hill gets in the game, he gets in at the kick return. But I don't think he's going to be there in the first quarter trying to return kicks.
I'm going to jump in if you guys don't mind. I like something you guys said there about the directional kicking because I think that's going to be important in this game. And if it's me in Kansas, if I'm Kansas City, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm putting Tyreek Hill back there and putting some pressure on them because there's no tomorrow. I mean, let's face it. This is for all the marbles. Mm-hmm. If it's a regular season game, if even just a regular playoff game, maybe you don't put such a valuable asset back there, and I get what you're saying about risking that injury, and that's definitely concerning. But they have such an embarrassment at riches, but why not put some pressure on the kicking game? Why not put some pressure on the special teams and put the cheetah back there and see if you can get the Bucs to sweat a little bit? Because like I said, this is not a great special teams unit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if I'm Andy Reid, I'm pulling out all the stops in this one. This is a chance to go back-to-back. This is a chance to maybe start a dynasty. I don't think I hold back at all.
And if we're looking at it like this, right, and I'm glad that you went that way. It's kind of like chess. I wanted to play chess with you. Now, I want you guys to think back about 15 years ago, right? And it hurts me to talk about this guy because I love him because he comes from the school that I love. But you remember how dangerous Devin Hester was in 2006. As soon as he touched the ball, the first kickoff, he got to the house. 7-0, Bears are up, right? You remember every time the Colts didn't get a first down, they kicked that ball out of bounds. They were not letting Devin Hester touch the ball at all. At all. I won't let you get started. No, you're not going to win this game because that's basically all you got. So with that being said, I look at it on Tampa's side of the ball like don't let Tyreek or these speedsters get in the way. Kind of try to negate these guys as best as possible and make the offense earn it as best as possible. I feel bad in saying make the offense earn it because we're going to run right into that buzzsaw. But it's like if Tyreek sees a lane or sideline with nobody there, there's only a few people that can catch him. And I don't think it's too many people on that, the special team side of the ball, even though, quote, unquote, wink, wink, Scotty Miller said he's faster than Tyreek. I beg to differ, but unless he was on the special team side.
Yeah, he's on glue.
He's right. I mean, that's what he said. So, I mean, that's a whole nother situation. I want to see at the end of the season, I want to see them race if he is faster than him because me and Barry actually looked at the 40 times and Tyreek smokes him, but Scotty Miller's fast in his own right. I don't want to talk too much about Scotty Miller because he's on the other side of the ball and he's going to be in the next segment as well. But like I said,
and he's on glue. So he's on the other side of the ball and he's on glue, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever it takes, man. I mean, you got to be confident though. You can't doubt him. He's
Yeah.
been making plays. He's fast, and he's been doing it. Like, he's that third down receiver that a lot of people go to sleep on, because if they do that spread and it's Antonio Brown, Scotty Miller, Goodwin, and Evans, you're not thinking about him. You're thinking about the other horses, and then next thing you know, he's on a matchup with a third or fourth corner. He's going to win. So I'm spilling too much in the Tampa. I want to save them their own segment. Okay. Now, this is like when the gloves come off. Like, this is the volcano. Forget the 4-alarm blaze. This is the volcano. The Kansas City offense, where I feel like this is another edge that goes. I don't even know if it's right to call it an edge. like it favors. Like, do I say it favors Kansas City? Because I've been saying this for the past 2 or 3 years. Every time Mahomes says hike, it's almost like watching the Summer Olympics, and you see the judge standing there with that white hat and blue suit, and he puts the gun in the air and he just pops the gun off. It's a track meet. Everybody is in full sprint, and Mahomes can hit everybody. He can make every pass on the field. He's making no-look passes, crossing his body on target. There was one play, I forget. There was a game that they had this year. He backpedaled 11 steps on purpose to make a throw 25 yards downfield. He was backpedaling. And threw the ball 25 yards downfield. Like, this guy is amazing. I want to say this kid, but I can't. This is a grown man on the field. I want to see how you guys feel about this offense. I mean, this is where the stars are born, so on and so forth, especially in front of this offense. Brad, I'll let you set this one off again. I mean, your thoughts on the offense, the edge that they have, or if you feel they don't have the edge, please elaborate.
Yeah, if we're talking about Mahomes and this Kansas City offense, you're right. It looks like a track meet out there, so much speed, so many guys to worry about. You've got Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends we've seen in a very long time, a dynamic player who can really beat you up in so many different ways. Tyreek Hill, as we've talked about, but you've got Hardman, you've got Pringle, you've got a lot of guys with a lot of speed and a lot of things that you have to worry about. And with Andy Reid, you know he's going to bring some wrinkles to this offense. You know he's going to bring some plays that you are not ready for. They're going to have about 4 or 5 plays that they've never shown before. And with all this extra time to prepare, he might have more than that. And so that's a dangerous thing to deal with as well, because you just don't know what kind of plays he's going to throw at you. But it's all the straw that stirs the drink. It's Patrick Mahomes. We know that. This guy is a special player. He might be the only guy that you could talk about and say he might be coming for the throne. We know Brady's the GOAT, but this kid is on an incredible trajectory right now. And in his last 26 starts, Mahomes in Kansas City is 25-1 in those games. In those games, he's had 60 touchdown passes, only 12 interceptions, and 7 rushing touchdowns. If you look at what Kansas City's offense has done, Kansas City is averaging just under 32 points per game in Patrick Mahomes' 53 career starts. That's the highest among all quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, with at least 50 starts under their belt. Now, here's the interesting thing. Tom Brady is actually second all-time on that list at 28 points per game. This quarterback matchup is all-time stuff here. This is almost like getting to see Jordan versus LeBron. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we're going to witness on Sunday. I can't wait to see it. But this Kansas City offense, if they can live up to their billing and really get things going, I think one of the keys to this game as far as offense for Kansas City is I think if they can get going early, if they can break a big play early, a big 60-yard touchdown, a big screen pass that breaks loose for 50 yards, whatever it is, and they get up early in this game and can take Tampa Bay out of their rhythm, so to speak, because I think Tampa Bay is going to want to bring balance. I think Tampa Bay is going to want to make this more of a fist fight. I don't think they want to get in a track meet with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think if Kansas City can get up early, get a 10-0 lead, maybe a 14-0 lead early in this game, and force Tampa Bay to kind of ditch the running game and try to play catch-up, I think it's going to be a long day for the Bucs. So I think for Kansas City, I'm expecting this offense to maybe come out of the gates and throw some haymakers. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the early plays in this game, we see some deep shots down the field trying to maybe get an early knockout punch.
Brad, I don't know why you said that. I don't know why you said that, because it's like Brady's out there listening to him. Like, don't get this guy to start trying to conquer another record. Like you said that he's in second place. It's like he went to the record board to try to erase everybody's name. He caught Drew Brees with the passing yards. He caught Drew Brees with the passing touchdowns. Now you're saying that Mahomes in the 25 or 26 games, and don't give Brady that. Like, it's like he'll probably win this game and try to run the board again. I don't want to start chasing this guy, but this is what he'll be after. Like, I got another chip on my sleeve. Like, he doesn't have enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it's speed kills at the end of the day, and if they can't stop that passing attack, I mean, literally, you got to worry about the running backs. Like you can't sleep on what's coming out of the backfield. So the linebackers have to be alert. But if it were me, I would run nickel coverage all day. Like I could not sleep if I would try to run 4-3 against that. It's no way. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable with just one corner on an island trying to deal with these guys. Barry, your thoughts on what Brad hit on and anything that you like to elaborate on outside of what Kansas City brings with this super dangerous offense?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City clearly, we all know, has one of the elite offenses we've ever seen. You're talking about a quarterback that, won the MVP in his first full season, led his team to a Super Bowl in his second full season, and isn't chasing any quarterback in this league as a contemporary right now. He's like LeBron chasing Jordan. He's chasing the legend, the GOAT of Tom Brady. But you look at this offense deeper. I mean, the two weapons that we've hit on, Kelsey and Hill, are dynamic. Two of the better players at their position in this league, makes them a dangerous offense. The thing that I think Brad kind of touched on, and I kind of agree, is that first quarter is going to be huge, because I expect Tampa Bay to come with a haymaker. I expect Tampa to come with a lead early in this game. They're going to get the first score. They're going to come up big, and it's going to be on Kansas City. They're going to put the pressure on Kansas City to answer, to respond. How do they do that? I expect Tampa Bay to play cover 2, dare them to run the ball, because I'm looking at Kansas City as a team that doesn't really care much about running the football because they're so good at throwing the ball. They're probably 23rd or so in the league in rushing attempts and run play. So, I mean, they run the ball about 38% of the time. So this isn't a running football-oriented team that I'm used to being like a Giant fan, where I see us running the ball all the time, or like the Baltimore Ravens that are a heavy running team. So, can Kansas City, they're gonna have opportunities to run the ball. Can they stick to that kind of formula with 2 deep safeties, 7 in the box, and say, I'm going to run the ball with Le'Veon Bell. I'm going to run the ball with my dynamic rookie Edwards-Helaire, and try to make this game, try to beat you the way that you're trying to make us beat you. So that's what I'm looking at. But, it's not going to happen against the Tampa Bay defense. They're pretty good against the run. So can they stick to the game plan? Can they stick to the formula? Because I think they're going to get opportunities to run the ball, and they just have to stick with it. But like we said, Kansas City's offense is amazing. Like we said, 2 of the better players on the outside, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, chasing ghosts. I mean, I heard a stat today for Mahomes. Mahomes is the guy to chase that legend, and I'd love to have a discussion with this later in the show, but he's the only guy, I think, in this league that can probably chase down the legend of Tom Brady. 10 Super Bowl appearances, 6 Super Bowl wins, maybe going on 7. He would have to probably play until Super Bowl 75 to probably chase down Brady. That's how much of a legend Tom Brady is, and how we all expect the guy, Patrick Mahomes, to be able to catch him or maybe give it a good run. I wrote a blog piece. I said he'll probably finish with 4 Super Bowls. That's not anything to shake a nose at. There's a lot of legends with 4 Super Bowls, but that just tells you how great Tom Brady is. So it's going to be an interesting game within the game.
Please write that down, Barry, because I do want to allude to that at the end of the show. That's something that we could jump into also to bring the discussion in front of Brad about the trade, too. So please write that down. Now, there's an interesting thing that he said now, Eric, and I want to see how you feel about it. Would you agree with Barry and Brad after Eric says that? I want to hear what you say, because I actually look at it differently now. I love the fact that my co-host said that. Force Kansas City to run the ball. This will make it a heck of a game. Like, they make sure Mahomes don't throw the ball. Then we got a game, right? Like, I know in a perfect world that's what you would want, but it's like it makes sense. Like, do you stay in passing defense as much as possible and try to let these running backs beat you? Like I feel that's a good recipe to try to make it happen. But Eric, your thoughts on what Barry alluded to, and your thoughts on the offense altogether, and including what Barry said about Mahomes and his chance at trying to bring a legacy or dynasty, if you will, to the state of Missouri.
Absolutely. You know, this kid's only 24 years old and has 36 starts under his belt, and he's also, he's been league MVP and Super Bowl MVP already. Tom Brady has 299 starts. So if Patrick Mahomes could have the longevity of Tom Brady, you know, the sky's the limit. Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent, no doubt. I mean, 1 in a billion, if you ask me. This guy does no-look passes and makes them look easy. Shovel passes, he's just incredible. He runs the ball. He's got great football IQ. He sees the field, an amazing arm. So, Tampa Bay is going to have to shut down Mahomes. That's a pretty good strategy. You know, hey, let's let these guys beat us on the ground. But Tampa Bay has a good running defense. You're not going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes. He's going to get his. You know, they're going to have to. Same thing like we talked about with Tampa Bay or the Chiefs bringing the house on Brady. They're going to have to, bring a lot of pressure to Mahomes. But the thing with that, Mahomes it can escape. You know, he's like a Houdini, man. You think he's going down, he's getting sacked, and he's coming out of the pile or eluding these guys and making a 40-yard throw to Tyreek Hill, or taking off on his feet. So I think this is going to be a great Super Bowl, folks. You got the GOAT and then the GOAT in training chasing him. So it's going to be fun to watch. But Patrick Mahomes is only 24 years old. People got to understand this and what he's already done and accomplished in his young career. So, I think the dynasty is definitely going to be there in Kansas City. As long as Mahomes is there, they're always going to have a team that's out there contending. I don't think they're going to implode anytime soon. So it could be a situation like we saw in New England with Tom Brady. Every year the Patriots were contending for a title since 2001. And a few years they had a few down years when Brady got injured. But it's going to be exciting to see. The future's very, very bright there, and I think the Chiefs' kingdom does have a dynasty going right now.
I want to touch on that, the whole idea of the dynasty and what they could possibly build in, because I think it's certainly a possibility. I think when we see this team, and as good as they are and as good as they've been again this year, coming off of a Super Bowl championship to get all the way back to the big game again and doing it really in an impressive fashion. They really only lost one game all year. They lost to the Raiders in that one, in the middle of the year, but then in Week 17 they benched a lot of guys, so you almost can't even count that. So this is a team that's really been rolling all year. The one thing I will say about the dynasty talk is if you look at Brady's dynasty, he really redefined dynasty, because prior to the Patriots, we used to look at teams like the 90s Cowboys who won 3 Super Bowls, or we looked at the 70s Steelers who won 4, or the 49ers who won, 5 in a fairly long span. But, you look at some of those dynasties, Brady just redefined the whole thing. He went to so many Super Bowls. He basically played in 50% of the Super Bowls in his career. He went to the Super Bowl 50% of the time.
Yep.
It's just unprecedented what we saw from this guy, and I don't know. It's hard for me to believe, even as great as Mahomes is, as good of a play caller and play designer as Andy Reid is and his staff, it's hard for me to believe that they can get to that status. Now, I'm with you. I think 3 or 4 is a lot more realistic, and that's a dynasty in its own right. So I don't want to downplay, like you said, I don't want to downplay if he can get to 3 or 4. That's still an unbelievable career. It's an unbelievable accomplishment. I think Brady is just in his own galaxy. I don't know if I don't think we're ever going to see a guy reach Brady heights. I mean, 100 years from now, we're going to be talking about this guy like people talk about Babe Ruth. I mean, none of us saw Babe Ruth, but everybody knows who he was because he was just out of this world. He was 100 years ahead of his time. This is what we're witnessing right now. We're witnessing one of the greatest athletes in any sport in the history of the world. He's really just on another level, and the fact that he got to another one with another team, it's just unprecedented. And the thing that's really key, though, with the dynasty talk, and I'll make this last point here, is there's a lot of reports out there that say Mahomes is going to get a mega payday, and rightfully so he should. I'm not against anybody getting their money.
Wait, he's already gotten it. He signed a 10-year for $500 million.
Right.
On top of that,
yeah.
Right?
But it doesn't kick in for 2 years, right? Isn't it? Because he's still, if I remember right, I'd have to check, but I'd have to look into that.
I think the scale of the contract is actually team friendly, even though it's a long-term deal, because you look at the way that the quarterback salaries rise from year to year. I mean, you know, there's some guys that were the highest paid just for 1 year, and then the next year they're leapfrog. So for the Kansas City Chiefs to ink him at a deal for, I think, around $40 million, looks like a lot, but it's really team friendly because the way the slippery scale goes. So I think from that standpoint, I think maybe there might be an opt-out clause, I think, in there somewhere. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, the 2000 or a 10-year, $503 million contract extension, and so you're really looking at about a 2-year window right now where they're going to be able to afford to have this super team around him.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really what we're looking at here is we're really looking at past this season. We're looking at about 2 more years before they're going to have some serious decisions to make because they're not going to be able to pay all these players around him and keep all this talent around him. And so if you look at Tom Brady, what made his dynasty so special was there was a lot of years in the middle of his prime where Brady was the 15th, 16th highest paid quarterback. You know, he was taking a pay cut a lot of those seasons to make sure that the Patriots had flexibility with their cap so they could build a good defense so he could always have a good O-line. So it's one of those things where you look at it and you say, they've got a huge opportunity here to maybe build something. And you're right. With Mahomes, you're always going to have a chance. You're always going to be a contender, I think, with Mahomes there. But this version of the Chiefs, this unbelievable track team that we see right now with so much speed and so much talent, I doubt we're going to see a team quite this talented in 2 or 3 years.
Eric, anything that you'd like to allude to?
No, I think he pretty much covered it. But I do believe that, like he said, Brady's in a galaxy of his own. But this Kansas City Chiefs team does have the potential to be the closest like the Patriots are. And Patrick Mahomes is going to be the closest thing because, this kid's only 24 years old. He's only started 36 games. He has 12 touchdown passes in 3 playoff games. He's just getting started. So I think Kansas City will be able to sustain. And like you said, the track record, the track running team, that's probably going to go away. But I do see Kansas City being able to, bring in guys. They're always going to be an attractive team, so they're going to be able to have free agents come in. And, they're really good at drafting players. So it just depends on how long Andy Reid is going to stick around in town. So, but it's going to be the Chiefs for a while. We're gonna always be talking about this team around this time of year.
And that's the one thing that I'm thinking about right now is how they look 5 to 7 years from now. if we're talking respectively about the dynasty, because there's one person that is like undefeated forever, and they call him Father Time. And these guys will slow down, and the one thing that I don't want to see, even though I'm a Lion fan, but I don't want to see Tyreek slow down. I don't like to see the transition of people getting old. You know what I'm saying? And once he gets older and he starts to slow down, it's like, what player out there still threatens the defense out there like that? Like you probably won't get another 4-2 guy like this, or get a guy like Miko that, races Tyreek every practice. These guys race each other. So it's like it's steel sharpening steel. And if they could keep that receiving core potent while these guys get older, then I could look at Mahomes threatening, dynasty-wise, or putting this up in the same type of numbers that Brady puts up. Because if I'm looking at Brady in the dynasty situation, the difference was it was Brady. Because all of the receivers, I can name all of the receivers, and us being football junkies, like, we know it. But, like, the average football fan, you'll be like, really? Like, those are his receivers? Like David Patton, David Givens, Deion Branch? Like, these guys are no-namers right now. Like, yeah, Deion Branch won a Super Bowl MVP, but off of the strength that Brady was going off. You know what I'm saying? And that was against the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like the one year that he had a monster was Moss and Welker and them, and they lost in that game against the Giants. But for Mahomes' success, he's been able to put this ball on the money to everybody in that receiving core and stay efficient consistently, especially while he reigns supreme in a questionable division in the AFC West. So I feel like if the Raiders don't get stronger, because I'm hearing stuff about what could potentially be happening in Vegas right now with the Raiders right now, depending on what the turnaround looks like with the Chargers and Herbert right now at the quarterback position in Denver, they have more than one issue to figure out. I mean, John Elway's in shambles. Drew Lock is their future. I doubt if he's there. Von Miller and his issue. There's so many issues going on in Colorado right now. So they're going to reign for a little bit in that division and be a threat to make the playoffs every season. But that youth that they have at all their positions, with I think the majority of the receiving core is under 30, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to see how long this lasts before Father Time starts tapping on people's backs. Okay, I really want to be sharp on this next topic, and that is the coach himself. And I want to be a kid again. And, Andy Reid reminds me of Dr. Robotnik, because I was a Sega guy. I mean, well, no, I'm more of a but if you look at Andy Reid, you look at the red mustache and the big guy that he is, and I can't talk much about Andy Reid because I'm not an Eagle fan or a Kansas City fan, but I love good offenses, and he earned his way, he earned his stripes, and had to get beat up in Philly, and, all of the people in Philly still respect him, but he made his name out here in Kansas City, and did it last year, got his first championship, and just watching him just get emotional crying, getting his first championship. What can he do again to go up against another evil genius in Arians to make this happen? Rad, I'll let you set this one off again.
I think this is a fascinating matchup, and one of the things that I'm looking for in this matchup with Reid, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I wanted to elaborate on it, was the running game, because we know Andy Reid is going to have a potent offense with the receivers and all the speed that we've been talking about. Will the running game be a factor? They only ran the ball 15 times in that Week 12 matchup, and if you look at this Bucs defense, they really haven't let anybody run on them all year. They've been excellent against the run. So I'm wondering if we're going to see some RPOs, maybe some things to counter the front Bucs defense that tends to employ that ferocious front seven that we've seen with Shaq Barrett and Devin White, Levante David. They might have the best team of linebackers in the entire league. You look at that front for them with its JPP, it'll be fascinating to see how Reid game plans for those guys. Is he going to try to come out and try to run the ball? Because I think Tampa Bay is going to give him some looks that say, go ahead and run it. We're going to let you run it. If you can, they're going to try to take away that passing attack. And I'll be really curious to see what Reid does as far as that's concerned. And as far as Bruce Arians, at this point, I think it's more about what Tom Brady wants to do. I mean, let's face it, this team has really kind of molded and shaped throughout the year, and it's become more and more of Tom Brady's offense. Because earlier in the year, when the Bucs were kind of getting their footing, you saw a lot of the Arians principles, which was taking deep shots, trying to put pressure on the safeties and the cornerbacks. And that's really not Brady's strength. You know, Brady's a little more methodical. He likes to beat you underneath. He likes to beat you over the middle. And we've seen a lot more of that. And we've seen a lot more throwing to the running backs and things like that, getting Scotty Miller involved in the slot. I think as far as that goes, it'll be fascinating to see how these guys match up and really the differences after that Week 12 matchup. Because I think you got to look at the coaching staffs as a whole too. Because if you look at what Steve Spagnuolo did, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, he blitzed Brady like crazy in that first matchup. He had a 50% blitz rate. He was hell-bent on putting a ton of pressure on Brady and trying to force him off his spot, and it worked for the most part. Brady threw 2 interceptions, but then Brady in this offense and Arians, they made some adjustments. Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, they made some adjustments. They started getting Gronk involved, and they started making them pay for the blitz. And so really it became a chess match, and it'll be fascinating to see, like I said, what adjustments we see and what kind of matchups we see and who they're willing to put on an island and who they're going to really put their attention on.
Okay, Barry, your thoughts on Andy Reid?
I mean, like I said earlier in the show, I think Andy Reid is a great coach. I think, he was one of the bridesmaids, never the bride, and Mahomes and company helped him get that chip. And, now you look at him in a different light. You look at him in one of the greater coaches. A coach to lead 2 different franchises to a Super Bowl appearance that was never really done. I think there was one other coach that had done it. So, he gets a lot of credit for that, and he's a mastermind as offense. I think he kind of is one of the reasons that Bieniemy is not getting the job, because people think it's not Bieniemy. It's really just Andy Reid and his offensive philosophy, which is not fair. I think Bieniemy is a great coach, but that's just a tribute to how good of a coach that Andy Reid is. So, listen, he's seen it all. He's been in this league a long time. He's had different types of offenses. I agree. I think an RPO might be something that they might look into. I think with Mahomes being as healthy as he's going to be with that turf toe, I think, that's a facet of the offense that they can bring back that they couldn't have a week or two. He was kind of hobbled by it. So, but I look at him. I really look at him as the guy that, Arians has to beat him. If we're looking at chess matches, he has to beat him, or Reid is going to have a field day, I think.
Okay, Eric, your thoughts on Andy Reid? Any edge that you'd like to give him as well?
I agree with what everyone's been saying. Arians is going to have to definitely beat him, but what worries me is the Chiefs have a lot to contend with. You got the GOAT on offense, and, I just think Tampa Bay has, so many weapons that they can beat you with. I mean, look at the receivers, Evans, Godwin, and Brown, and then you got Gronkowski, and you got running backs like Fournier and Jones. So this is going to be, a problem. Arians he could run fly routes, screens, deep routes, and I think we're going to see a lot of that because Tom Brady, obviously, like Brad alluded to, it's his, his realm. Like he's calling the shots, but Arians has these plays that he's known for, and I think they're going to stretch the field and put a lot of work on the Kansas City secondary. They're going to spread that field, and they're going to have a lot of open targets, especially if they get their running game going. Then it's going to be a problem for Kansas City. So it's all on Andy Reid and how that Kansas City defense is going to respond, because they have, this is a big task at hand, gentlemen, when you got an offense as loaded as Tampa Bay. So there's just too many weapons you're going to have to contend with, and it's going to be Andy Reid who's going to have to get that defense going and figure that out.
Definitely. The call-in number is 929-477-2759. You are now with Power 103 Radio and the Sport City Chefs, kicking it here with our guest, Brad Fowler, from the Pint Glass Football Podcast. And we've had a great show thus far. Try to keep it as much AFC, but it's so hard with this Super Bowl. It's like you got to talk them. You got to talk both of them because it's the battle of the Reds. Like, which Red is stronger this time around? But now we're going into my wheelhouse now. I'm an NFC guy. I can't lie. Sitting in the NFC North, a Detroit guy. But now this is my wheelhouse. I get to see the conference that I love and respect. But now I feel some type of way, people, because I watched the GOAT leave the AFC and come right to the NFC and dominate the conference like with 1 year, like nothing happened. Like he didn't have no chink in the armor. He just came and just dominated enough to get to the postseason and take care of business. So I'm going to do the same scenario that I just did with the AFC with the Chiefs. I'm going to start with the defense first. Hear how you guys feel about it. Barry, I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I'm going to come to you first. Your thoughts on the defense. What does the Tampa Bay defense have to do to win Super Bowl number 7 for Tom for number 2 in Tampa Bay?
Like you said,
I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. It's the villain. It's the villain's turn. I'll let you talk after. I think, like we said, it's really playing coverage. They have to be able to get pressure with 4 guys. They can't blitz Mahomes and not get home and then leave guys one-on-one in signal coverage down the field, because if you miss them, he's going to burn you. So can JPP and Barrett get pressure? Can Sue get in his face up the middle? It's a pretty darn good front 4. And then you got the linebackers for Tampa Bay that are pretty darn good. So it's like you're going to really ask these guys to do what they do at a high level. The defensive line has to get home with 4 guys. The linebackers have to tackle running backs by themselves. The secondary, all 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, whoever's in coverage, have to play a phenomenal coverage. But you have to play coverage with 7 guys. You have to rush 4, and you got to make this game hard for them. Cover 2, don't let anybody deep. Make the sideline your friend. Use the short side of the field to your advantage. It's going to be all the little things, but to a heightened level. You got to make sure that you get coverage. You force Kansas City to run the ball, and when you force them to run the ball, make a tackle, because you won't have much help otherwise. So it's going to be the little things like that, and I think Kansas City, for the most part, can get some of those things done, but you can't outpunch these punchers all game. Eventually, Kansas City is going to make their mark. They're going to get their big plays, and they're going to make plays just like they did in last year's Super Bowl. So. Sorry, Eric. I know you don't want to talk about last year's Super Bowl, but I mean, it's going to happen. They're going to get their plays, but you got to be able to do what you can with the front 4 getting pressure and everybody else playing coverage.
Okay, Brad, I heard you trying to get in there. Your thoughts on this defense and being Tampa Bay's defense to try and slow down the track meet known as the Chiefs?
Yeah, I agree with a lot that was just said there, and this is one place where I think the Bucs have a distinct advantage in this game. I think that Bucs front 7 versus the Kansas City O-line that is missing 2 starters, including Eric Fisher, their best offensive lineman. They're missing both tackles for this game. Mitchell Schwartz is out. Mitchell Schwartz is definitely out for this game, and so you're missing some key guys there. And if you look at the second half of this season, teams have been getting a lot of pressure on Mahomes. I think Tampa Bay, if they can get pressure on Mahomes consistently in this game, it is really going to bode well for them. And it's going to be really interesting to see which tactic they take here to do that. It's never ideal, obviously, with 2 edge protectors out for Kansas City. But when you've got Todd Bowles in this defense, he's really going to attack those edges. He didn't blitz Mahomes very much in that first game, in that Week 12 matchup, but I think that could change. I think the Chiefs might be changing their strategy a little bit in this one. I think we could see Devin White bringing pressure. I think we could see Shaq Barrett and some of these guys bringing a little more heat and trying to get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly, try to rough him up a little bit and make him uncomfortable. The turf toe is an issue as well, because Mahomes is a very fluid runner. He's a very underrated athlete. He can move and get out of the pocket. He's very good at throwing on the run. But you can tell these last couple of games, he's been a little hobbled. Now, he's had a little bit of time to rest going into this Super Bowl. But I was just hearing reports today on ESPN that they don't expect that turf toe to be anywhere near 100% for this game. So I think that could be a factor as well, as if you can get him moving and get him out of the pocket and uncomfortable. And I really think that Tampa Bay has a big, big advantage as far as that goes in this game. I expect a lot of pressure, but Vita Vea is also going to be back for this game, it sounds like. Getting him more involved. We saw he got some snaps in the NFC Championship game. That could loom large in this game. It's another guy that can get pressure up the middle. And I think, like I said, with those missing offensive linemen for the Chiefs, they could be in big trouble here with that front seven. I think the Bucs have a massive advantage as far as that goes.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Eric, your thoughts on the defense for Tampa Bay? How can this secondary slow down the track meet? I know his names like Levante David and those in the linebacker core, but a guy that I know, Ndamukong Suh, he has to get that pressure. He can't just be the monster just trying to start mayhem in there and starting fights. He has to make plays up front to try to make it difficult for Mahomes. If not, this could be a nasty first quarter like it was the last time that they played, where Tyreek was going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mahomes, sometimes players, they say things, but it may not be true. Patrick Mahomes said that his toe is pretty close to 100%, and he said he's sure by game day it will be 100%. So that just may be, Mahomes just throwing that out there. We'll definitely be able to tell if it is 100%, but that's going to play a huge factor into this game because just like Barry and you guys alluded to, this is a huge advantage. Excuse me. You got Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea's coming back, William Goldston, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White, and Shaquille Barrett. And then you also got a great covering linebacker in Carlton Davis that can get out there and bang with these wide receivers. So it's going to be great to see. But if his toe is not 100% and they bring the pressure, it could be a long day for Kansas City. I do have Tampa Bay winning this game just because on the offensive side and the defensive side, they're just a little bit more. They just have a better overall team. So, and if Tampa Bay gets the pressure, and we see, just like you said, Ty, this could be a long first quarter.
Okay, Barry. No, Brad didn't go, right? I think I got Barry. I got Eric. So I need Brad. Brad, your thoughts, correct, on what Tampa Bay needs to do to slow down this offense, and who do you think could be the unsung hero? Like I want to hear a name. Like give me a name that you think that can actually help probably figure out Mahomes, or I don't know if they're just going to double Tyreek or double Kelsey off the rip. I want to know who's the guy that helps probably solidify this game for Tampa Bay on the defensive side of the ball.
I think an X factor to watch for on the Tampa Bay defense is rookie Antoine Winfield Jr. He's coming back off of injury. It looks like he's going to be a go for this game from everything I'm reading. And he has been a big, big-time addition for this team all season long. Playing that safety position, he gets all over the field. It seems like he's in on every tackle, just a really, really versatile player. And I think it'll be key to see if he can help out those young cornerbacks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I think that's really the weak spot for this Tampa Bay secondary. Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, you've got two second-year corners who really struggled through most of the year. But I will say they have played a little better here in the playoffs. It seems like they've been kind of stepping up in these big moments. So it'll be fascinating in general to see how the secondary matches up. But I think a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. back there at the safety position, I think he can be huge in this game. It can be a big factor as far as maybe coming up in the box, trying to take away some of that underneath stuff and some of the stuff in the seam for Travis Kelce, and also maybe playing some bracket coverage over a guy like Tyreek Hill and trying to take away that home run ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it'll be really fascinating to watch him and kind of see where they line him up and what kind of defensive coverages they utilize for him. But I think he could be an X factor in this ball game for the defense.
Now, this is the crazy part about it, right? Because I'm really thinking about how Todd Bowles has been the guy of the unsung coaches that has been figuring out these quarterbacks all season long. He's brought the pressure against Stafford. He's brought the pressure against Rodgers. I've seen all of these big-arm quarterbacks that thought that they could throw the ball up against his defense not have a good day up against Tampa Bay's defense. For him to figure out Green Bay twice, and you know the familiarity, it gets better when they play again. And, Green Bay had their shot, and I really feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, even though I don't, because he's in my division, so I see him so much. It's like he could have attacked that corner pylon and tried to score the touchdown, but he tried to make a throw because he's been, erratic all day. He's been on his high horse trying to make throws or make things happen. Like, this game of football is so quick that he has to make plays happen right now. That's what you befuddle a quarterback. Now, it would be interesting if this defense could be honest. If Tampa Bay's defense could be honest and try to slow these guys down, I know I'm asking for a lot. To try to slow at least Tyreek and Kelsey down. I mean, the rest of these guys can blow the doors off of hinges off of a defense. But if they can do that and send pressure to Mahomes and knock them down or even sack them, if they could do anything to make this game interesting, boy, this is going to be one heck of a game. I already feel like it's going to be a heck of a game, but if Tyreek gets off to the start that they had the last game, it's like that defense is doing something wrong, and they're going to have to figure that out immediately because they don't want this to get out of hand because you got one offensive guru going at the next offensive guru, and I don't think it'll be fair if Kansas City's comfortable with a lead. I don't think it's fair, but anything could happen.
And you know what, TP? Like, I'll be honest with you, especially being in the New York area, Todd Bowles is much maligned around here just because of his run with the New York Jets as the head coach. 4 seasons that weren't really that dismal, and it seems like ancient history now because the Jets have rolled over into a new coach and then another new coach, and that's Soleil. So, you get through the Gase era. I mean, anything before that seems like a picnic, but people forget that Todd Bowles is a really good defensive coordinator, with the Bucs and with the Cardinals before that. He's very creative back there. I think he has some weapons. I think Brad hit on a great point that they're getting their 2 safeties back, and that's huge. But a guy that I think is going to be a guy that we're going to be looking at is the young linebacker that Eric alluded to, and Devin White. I think he, 26 tackles in his first 2 playoff games, a fumble recovery. I think he's the guy that he's going to be on an island in the middle of the field by himself, either covering Kelsey, chasing him down, or chasing down running backs. I look for the screen game to be very big for Kansas City. But he's the guy that's got to make plays out there. He's got to make tackles. He can't miss tackles. He has to get this team in line in coverage. And I think if he has a good game, if he's a disruptive force, they can slow the offense down. Like I said, nobody's going to stop that offense. I don't believe it. But Devin White and company, he's the guy that in the middle of that field that can give them problems and slow that offense down, get them off the field on 3rd down, force them into punt situations, and force Reed not to go for it on a 4th and short. He's the guy that's going to make that tide shift in Tampa Bay's favor, in my opinion.
Okay, so we at least got to the defense on the side of the ball for Tampa Bay. Now, this is where we had the little, the discussion on who has the edge. And like I said, I feel Kansas City has the edge on the side of the ball in special teams. But what could Tampa Bay do to make it different? Like we had Brad speak on the situation with, guys like Mickens making plays. And, they have Winfield that could go back there also. And just like I said, the guy that said, he said it. He said he's faster than Tyreek, which I'd have to wait until 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, after all of the partying goes on. I want to see the race. I want to see if he can really nail Tyreek in I'll be fair, let's do a 100-yard race. Like a 100-yard dash, he was faster. If you end up running a 9.8 and he runs a 9.7 or something, I know there's going to be some dangerous numbers. But I want to hear the edge, at least for Tampa Bay, because right now I feel like it's a situation where Tampa Bay should clear-cut should have the edge. But hold on, we do have a caller in queue. Calling out of the DMV area of the United States, we have Aaron Simmons in the building. Aaron, welcome to the roundtable. How are you feeling this evening?
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys to discuss this upcoming game along with some other topics, man. I hope you guys are having a good evening at work.
Definitely. So I'll get you in here shortly. Eric, your thoughts on the special teams and what Tampa Bay has to do, at least to try to get field position, because right now I extremely give the edge to Kansas City on the special team side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ty, on the special teams. Kansas City does have the upper hand, but Jaden Mickens has the potential. We saw what he has been doing in the playoffs, so as long as he can if they can get him going, then Tampa Bay is going to be in good field position. But it all comes down to tackling on both sides of the special teams. They're going to have to shut these guys down. They're going to have to make tackles because there's speed on both sides. Kansas City definitely has the edge. But if they're missing tackles and these guys are able to break, big gains, then it's going to be a problem. It's going to come down to a battle of field position. So I look for Kansas City to win that battle. But, it's Tampa Bay has the potential to, be able to combat that too with Mickens. So it'll be interesting to see.
Okay, so Siri, since we got you here, your thoughts on what Tampa Bay can do on the special team side of the ball to have an edge?
Honestly, it's play discipline football. One of the things that you look at when you start dealing with the Kansas City Chiefs is they live on the explosion. Like, they really, really live and thrive off explosion, and that comes in a plethora of different ways, and special teams is no exception to that. If you look over the course of the 2020 season, they have set Patrick Mahomes and company up in great field position. However, if you look back to the AFC Championship game, the touchdown that the Buffalo Bills did score was a direct result of a special teams blunder. So it's high risk, high reward. So if you're Tampa Bay, you're really going to have to capitalize on Kansas City's misfortune. You're really going to have to create splash in that department yourself, whether that be a tackling, whether that be a strip, holding the ball carry up or something along those lines to really put the tide in your favor if you're Tampa Bay.
Okay, Barry, your thoughts on the special team side of the ball? What do they have to do, being the Buccaneers, to try and bring this thing home?
The Bucs. Like I said, I think Kansas City has the advantage on special teams. I think, it's going to be, field position, really kind of forcing Kansas City to go the length of the field, taking care of the football. No turnovers. Any turnovers on the special team side is going to spell disaster. You can't give any side of the other team, easy points. Ask Tampa Bay. That turnover in the second half was basically the difference in the game. Tampa Bay has a good kicker, like you said, in Suckup, but I don't think he has an advantage over Kansas City's kicker. But they have I think they have a good enough kicker to make kicks when they need to. While I think Kansas City has the advantage in special teams, I think Tampa Bay can do some things to game a little close, not turn the ball over, play the field position game if they can't keep on the field, keep drives sustained. Those little things I think can kind of close the gap in a special teams perspective.
Okay, and Brad, close the show on this situation. We've already talked about. I heard you bring up Mickens, and I kind of coincided on top of that. Your thoughts on what Tampa Bay is going to have to do to surprise or shock Kansas City and try to, catch them off guard and surprise them on the special team side of the ball?
Well, maybe they pull out some stops. Maybe we see an onside kick when we're not expecting it. Maybe we see a fake punt on a 4th and short. Maybe they try to pull out something to steal a possession or to keep a drive alive or do something to really catch Kansas City off guard. I think that'll be interesting. I also think the team that kicks the most field goals is going to lose this game. I think the red zone is huge, and I think the team that capitalizes in the red zone and punches it in is obviously going to have a huge advantage in this one. We saw how the Bills settled for field goals, and it was their doom. It really cost them that game because they weren't able to keep pace with Kansas City. Now, granted, I obviously think Tampa Bay has a much, much better defense and should be able to slow down this Chiefs offense a lot better than the Bills did, but I do think that the kicking game will be important. I think directional kicking will be important, kicking away from some of these guys for Kansas City, trying to keep it out of their hands, try to not set up big plays for them, and tackling. I think tackling is an underrated part of it, limiting the damage, not letting the guy break a tackle and turn what would be a 5-yard return into a 35-yard return. Things like that I think will be huge, and I also think a turnover, like one of you guys mentioned earlier, I think a turnover would be absolutely enormous in this game on either side for special teams. I think that's going to be huge. Just taking care of the football on special teams will be pivotal because, like you alluded to, Kansas City had that muff punt. You're not going to want to see that against a good team like Tampa Bay. If you set up an easy, cheap score for a team like that, it could be really costly. So I think special teams is definitely a fascinating matchup to look for in this game. I think Kansas City has the edge, but it's going to come down. It's one game. So it's really going to come down to which one plays better in this matchup.
Okay, and to me, like I said from the get-go, I think Kansas City does have the edge, but I feel just like Brad said, and it made me raise my eyebrows because I wanted to say it, but he got it out. I think the trickery may come on Arians' side of the ball, even though Andy Reid is one of those guys that continues to keep you on your toes or do just like Eric said with the shovel pass that they love to do to Kelsey. It's like if you see Kelsey going in motion and he's slowing down by the guard, he's throwing that shovel pass. Believe me, it's going to happen. So it's like just be ready in this game. Like I'm at the edge of my seat, popcorn ready to see what's going to happen next. Okay. So now I think I feel safe in getting ready to start this thing up in this offense in Tampa Bay. And they're at home. This is the first time in NFL history that a home team has been home or a team has played in their home arena. However this may go down, because I think it might be Kansas City might be the home team. I don't know how this goes down, who's home and who's away. But Brady's at home. Brady has his offense, and this is what I want. This is what I want. I want to, like, kind of spill this one out first. I want Antonio Brown to be out there. After all that he went through for the past year, so he gets to this point, and he has an injury bothering him right now. If they want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, they need everybody. In the movie The Professional, everyone. They need everyone. Like they need everybody to come and get these guys. And I feel like they may have an edge with Antonio with a third corner. But what does this offense have to do to help the GOAT? That's right, the greatest of all time, at least quarterback. Some people may say player. However you paint this or slice it, he's in that conversation. How does he get his 7th ring and bring the second one back? Is this going to be a situation? It's Sport City. I kind of want to set this up kind of. Is this going to be another one of Brady's Super Bowl wins? It's a one-possession game, and he wins this doggone game again on a field goal or some late touchdown like he did against the Rams. I mean, it's always something crazy where it's a one-score type of game. He keeps that popcorn fresh. Brad, I'll let you set this one off. Your thoughts? Or if you have another GOAT, I don't know if you have another GOAT at the quarterback position, but your thoughts on what the Bucs have to do offensively to lock this thing up.
Well, no, I definitely don't. Actually, on my podcast a few weeks ago, we broke down our Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, and I had Tom Brady at the top of that list, and that was before they made the Super Bowl here. So I think he was the GOAT then. I think he's the GOAT now. I think he just cemented it even further with his Super Bowl trip. He's the greatest of all time. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Brady has been playing Super Bowls for so long that there's players that were actually drafted a year after him that are already in the Hall of Fame. That's just mind-blowing. This guy has been doing it for so long, and here he is again at 43. You were talking about Father Time is undefeated, and he certainly is, but I think Brady's got him in a chokehold because I don't know what this guy, if he's got a fountain of youth in his backyard, I don't know what, he's eating kale sandwiches or smoothies. I don't know what he's doing, that TB12 stuff. But this guy is just unbelievable. 43 years old, he's out there throwing lasers. He looks like he's 28 years old. If you would have told me this guy, if you dropped me off, into this time and I had no idea what I was watching, who I was watching, and somebody just said, hey, watch this quarterback for Tampa Bay, I'd be like, what is he, 27, 28? No, he's 43. It's unbelievable. I just have so much respect for this guy. And I think when you look at his playmakers, I like what you said about Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown, if he can be a factor in this game, I think it really bodes well for the Tampa Bay offense because you've got Mike Evans, you've got Godwin. Now, the one thing that these receivers are going to have to do, though, for Brady is they're going to have to play better than they did in that NFC Championship game. We saw way too many drops from these guys. I think it was about 5 or 6 drops, and some of these were crucial plays that would have kept drives alive and forced them to punt instead, where Brady's putting it on them and they're dropping the ball. So I'm wondering if the spotlight gets a little too bright for these guys, or if they're off their game, they're not completely dialed in, then that could spell trouble for this Tampa Bay offense. But I don't think it's going to be on Brady because this guy has seen it all. He's done it all. There's not going to be any kind of defense or look that they're going to be able to give him that he hasn't seen. So I think from that standpoint, it's really hard to game plan for this guy because he's just the absolute best at breaking down a defense, knowing where to go with the football. It's going to be a matter of can they give him time to throw? Can they make him comfortable? If Brady's comfortable in the pocket and if they can run the ball, I said it earlier, but I think the running game is so huge in this game to slow down that Chiefs pass rush, and I think they can do it because Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, versus that Kansas City front seven, Kansas City allowed 120 yards per game on the ground this season. And this is a Tampa Bay team that can really run the ball. That offensive line has been really physical here in the playoffs. The last couple games, if you watch what they did against that Saints defense, that's one of the best defenses in the league. And that offensive line really flexed their muscles and blew those guys off the ball consistently in that game. I think they can do the same against this Chiefs front seven. And if they can have success running the ball and setting up third and shorts, second and shorts, they're going to have a lot of success here. And the guy that I think is the big X factor in this one is Rob Gronkowski. He had his best game of the season in Week 12. He caught 6 passes for 106 yards, the season high. He was really a big playmaker for them in that game. And a lot of it came because of all the pressure they were trying to put on Brady. They were blitzing like crazy and trying to get Brady off his spot. And it opened up a lot of underneath stuff. So as much as we like to focus on Evans and Godwin and Antonio Brown, those guys are great. I would not be surprised if we saw a lot of Gronk and a lot of Scotty Miller just eating them up on that underneath stuff, the stuff that Brady is so good at, those 3rd and 4-yard passes, those little slant routes where he just keeps the chains moving. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see that type of strategy, kind of similar to what the Raiders did when they knocked off the Chiefs in the regular season. They didn't want to get in a track meet. Methodical game plan. They had a very balanced attack where they ran the ball, they set up play action, they beat them up underneath. They had long, sustainable drives that kept Mahomes on the sideline and kept that Raiders offense just moving down the field. And I think we could see something similar from Tampa Bay here. And if they're able to do that, I really like their chances in this game.
I beg to differ on the Gronk situation. Gronk has been quiet. But if he comes up big in this game, it would be impressive to see his one last gasp because I don't know what Gronk has left. I mean, we're seeing a shell of him. But if he locks this down, and I don't know how to carry this question, like, how do you see the GOAT talk being now? Like, is there anybody that's around him, Brad, before I move this to the others here in the kitchen?
Anybody near Tom Brady as far as the GOAT conversation? Gosh, for a while, I thought guys like Montana. I had Montana probably number 2 all time, in my opinion, but it just feels like Brady has just pulled away from everybody else. It's just hard to argue with what Brady's done. You look at all the numbers, all the postseason success, all the touchdown passes, it goes on and on and on. There's nothing this guy hasn't done, and he's been doing it, like I said, for such a long time at such a high level. And I think for a long time, and it's kind of similar to Montana, ironically, was for a long time people used to say, well, Montana's a system guy, and it's more about Bill Walsh, and it's more about the West Coast offense. It's more about Jerry Rice, and people kind of used to downplay Montana a little bit. And then we saw Montana late in his career go to the Kansas City Chiefs and take them all the way to an AFC championship game very late in his career, and it kind of bucked that narrative. It kind of made people say, oh, wait, Joe Montana is really great in his own right. It wasn't just a system. And I think we're seeing that with Brady now, where a lot of people are like, well, it's Belichick, it's the Patriots, he's always had the greatest coach ever. And, yeah, maybe he has had the greatest coach ever, but Brady proved this year that he had just as much, if not more, to do with their success than anybody else. And he's really just taken it to a whole nother level. As good as people thought Tampa Bay could be this year, and there was a lot of hype about them coming into the year, this has to go beyond most people's expectations. I mean, what he's been able to do is really just incredible.
And by the way, Brad, what team do you like in the NFL?
I root for the Shield, so I just love the NFL. I'm not a fan of any team. I root for great games. I root for great teams. I root for great players because, when I got into this space and started podcasting and started covering these teams, I don't have anything against people that have a team. There's nothing wrong with that. But I kind of felt like I had to take the team hats off and say, if I'm going to cover a team, I don't want to be on a podcast episode and talking about a team and then have somebody be like, oh, well, he's only saying that because he's a Cowboy fan, or oh, he's a Chiefs fan, so he's only saying that because of that. I don't want to discredit anything that comes out of my mouth when I'm covering football. I want it to be an unbiased take because that's what I'm giving my listeners every week. I'm giving them an unbiased take. I tell it how it is and how I see it, and I don't want any fanhood or fandom to get in the way of that.
Right, and that's exactly what I follow. I wanted to see if I could sneak it out. Who did you like when you were in high school? Who was your team in high school? I used to be a Steelers fan, but I had to like I said, I had to put all that away. Come on. No. Brad, you were doing so good until you got to this point. You were doing so good. Oh, my God. Terrible.
But like I said, I root for greatness, and I'm rooting for a great game. That's really all I want to see because, like I said, no more favorite teams, none of that stuff. I try to cover football, and, I try to be as journalistic about it as I can.
Beautiful. That's good. I don't blame you for leaving the Steelers. So I'm going to bring another Steeler guy in here. I'm serious. Your thoughts on the Tampa Bay offense? What do they have to do to win this game? And if the GOAT gets this championship, where's the discussion at now?
Honestly, man, I really can't go back over what my man Brad just alluded to, but I will say this. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win this game, the stars will have to be stars. You're going to have to see Tom Brady play a decent game. You're going to have to see Mike Evans hold the football. You're going to have to see some resemblance of a running game. So whether that's Fournette or whether that's Rojo, you're going to have to see some resemblance of a running game. I do believe, again, Brad alluded to it a minute ago, I do believe Gronk is going to play a huge factor in the outcome of this game. For nothing else, he's been there so many times. Like, the stage isn't too bright for Gronk. The stage isn't too bright for Tom Brady and Gronk. I mean, these two have been doing it for so many years. So this is, to them, another game. As somebody who's played, sports and who, has played on a championship level, not maybe a championship like a Super Bowl, but I've been to state championships and when them lights come on and when those introductions take place, I mean, the butterflies happen. Everything is all, cupcakes and Hallmark cards until the lights come on, and then you get the rumbling and the tumbling, and it's time to play ball. And honestly, I believe that, Tom Brady and Gronk are going to be the common force to settle this down. So I believe Gronk is going to play a pivotal role, especially early, in settling the nerves. I mean, Bruce Arians has been to a Super Bowl before, but you know, you sit on the sideline with your headset on. It's a whole different ball game actually being out there. So I believe if Tampa Bay is going to emerge victorious, those two are going to have a big to do about it.
Okay, Barry, your thoughts on the Tampa Bay offense, what they have to do to win this game, and the GOAT conversation, even if he wins or loses?
I mean, win or lose, he's still the GOAT. I mean, we've talked about it on previous shows. We had a good heated discussion, all in good fun. You know, like I said, you know, I had Montana as the GOAT for a long time, but I mean, once Brady got that fifth ring, I had little to no argument, and then you're talking 28-3. I mean, that's all you have to say, 28-3. After that, I had no argument. I had nothing to stand on. So all of my friends in New England and New Hampshire, Massachusetts, if you're listening to the show, I said it, the villain said it, Tom Brady is the GOAT. Are you happy? Are you entertained? Okay? But, I mean, honestly, I don't look at skill positions on the offense for the Bucs as the key. We know they're going to show up. They have the weapons. They have AB and Evans and Scotty Miller, the fastest man on earth if you ask him, Gronk, Fournette, you know, all the weapons that you can ask for. I look at the offensive line as they have to be the one. Okay, they have to control the line of scrimmage. They have to keep Tom Brady upright, and they got to run the football. They have to make holes for Fournette and company and Jones because you know they're going to play coverage. Both these teams are not going to let Brady and Mahomes beat them up and down the field throwing the ball. We're not going to see a 54-51 game like we saw a couple years ago with the Chiefs and the Rams on that Monday Night Football. We're going to see these guys, they're going to play coverage, and they're going to try to make this a defensive game. So who's going to run the football? I think the offensive line has to be the clear advantage. I think with Kansas City having a couple injuries on that line, Tampa Bay's line is gelling. They're keeping Brady upright for the most part. I think, you know, the Packer game, they got pressure up the middle a little bit, so they got to clean that up because, like I said, Jones is the guy at D tackle. That's their best pass rusher, and that's where the pressure came from in the Packer game. So can Kansas City take advantage of that? And in the inverse, can Tampa Bay keep Tom Brady upright? Can they keep them, you know, from making Tom Brady uncomfortable in the pocket? Because that's how you beat him. Can they open holes to start that running game and get that going? So, I look at the position players, TP, I think they're going to be there. I think they're important, obviously. I look at the offensive line, those five guys. Can they win the line of scrimmage and you know, in my opinion, win the game for Tampa Bay?
Okay, Eric, your last but not least, I have had no disagreements on this GOAT talk. So your thoughts on what Tampa Bay has to do to win this game going up against 50, I don't even know if I can say 50-50 questionable defense of Kansas City because Kansas defense has been trying to turn this thing up. But what does Tom Brady have to do to get his seventh ring going up against probably the most potentest offense I've ever seen? Now, it would be in question. I kind of want to, throw that as in a debate. Which offense would you rather see out of Missouri? Too, this is crazy. Kansas City's offense or the best show on turf? So that would be an interesting one, too. That's crazy that they both came out of that state. But, Eric, your thoughts on Tampa Bay's offense and what Brady has to do to solidify himself because there's still questions now about the GOAT talk.
Oh, man, the greatest show on turf, that's hard to beat. We're going to have to see a little bit more out of the Chiefs because, they could score on any play. Any play. Well, the Rams were scoring, so it was incredible to watch. But that's talk for another time. And there's no doubt about it, folks. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, undisputed, will never be beaten. The guy's 43 years old, like Brad alluded to. The guy, if you got dropped off in this era, you'd think the guy was 28 years old or something. At 43 years old, he's putting up over 4,600 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He's got, boatload of weapons. These guys are going to perform in the Super Bowl. Mike Evans is going to have going to be a big target. You got Gronk, that's definitely going to be one of his favorite targets during the game. And then you throw in Antonio Brown and Godwin, and you throw in that running game with Fournier and Jones, and just like Barry touched on, if that offensive line holds up, Brady is getting his 7th Super Bowl trophy. There's no doubt in my mind. And this is a guy who just stated a day ago, at 43 years old, that he is seriously considering playing past the age of 45. So, I mean, this is something that, is never going to be seen again. We're never going to see anybody or anything like this again. His records will never be touched. No one's going to go to 10 Super Bowls, and let alone have a chance to win 7. I mean, we all talked like 4 Super Bowl rings, and you're having a legendary career. This guy has his chance to get his 7th, which I think at the end of the day, Tampa Bay is coming out on top. So it's going to be a good Super Bowl, but look for Tampa Bay and Tom Brady to hoist up his 7th Super Bowl trophy.
You're already giving me the pick. I was trying to save you for Sunday. I only needed one pick today because I got at least 5 more days before I get the pick out of you. But you're already putting Tampa for the Vince Lombardi. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me spice this thing up. The coach that at least 2 of these guys know pretty well, and Bruce Arians. What does he have to do to be the evil genius? And I want to say more or less the white mustache Dr. Robotnik, because they both look like Dr. Robotnik, right? I'm a Sonic guy, but they both look like Dr. Robotnik. But I want to see how you guys feel about what Bruce Arians has to do to lock this thing down. You know what? I'll come to you first here. Is your thoughts on one of your former coaches in Pittsburgh? What does he have to do to knock off the other side of Keystone State, Andy Reid, even though he's in Kansas City now?
Honestly, coach is the game. You know what I'm saying? Do not allow the moment to overshadow you. And the thing is, take the heartbeat of your players. Take the heartbeat of your players. I mean, arguably, you got Tom Brady on your roster. There are a few people here that think he's the GOAT. I don't subscribe to that. But you got Tom Brady on your roster. Do not pull a Matt LaFleur and take the ball out of your quarterback's hands. Don't do it. Play ball. Play football. Herm Edwards said, back in the day, you play to win the game. Go win the thing. There is no tomorrow. You can rest up all off season. This ain't the best of the 7-game series. You got one game. Go win the thing. So I think if Tampa Bay is going to come out successful, then Bruce Arians would have, rolled the dice in some questionable areas. Brad alluded to this a little bit ago. Maybe he goes for a fake punt here. Maybe, we have a Motor City, miracle throwback or something. I mean, there is no tomorrow. We're going to spend all off season, breaking down this game and second guessing play calls and what have you. Give us the ammo we need to make good radio. Do something out of the box. Do something out of the box. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these 2 offensive guys come up with. But at the end of the day, if Tampa Bay is going to be successful, I think Bruce Arians is going to really have to rise to the occasion and don't fold under the pressure.
Okay, Barry, your thoughts on Bruce Arians? What do you do with the snowed in, if you will, mustache version of the Dr. Robotnik? What does he have to do to beat the younger version of Dr. Robotnik?
I kind of agree with Sirius. Even though Sirius got a little shot in there, and you don't think Brady's the GOAT. You know Brady's the GOAT. You know it. Come on, brother. But listen, I agree with him.
Do we need to go through this again?
Yes, it's fun. It's great radio. It's great. You love it. You love going after the villain. You love it. Listen, Arians is like, this is his first Super Bowl, which is a slight disadvantage, but a lot of guys are usually in their first Super Bowl. He can't make the big mistake. He can't try to out-coach Andy Reid. He has to coach his game. He has to do what he does. I mean, Sirius knows Arians offensively takes a lot of risk. He did it in Pittsburgh when he was the offensive coordinator. He did it as the head coach in Arizona. He takes risks. Sometimes they're calculated. Sometimes they're like, head scratcher. We're talking about 3rd and 1, throwing a deep pass. Like, we don't need that. Coach the game like you're supposed to coach it. Don't try to do too much. You can't get 14 points on one play. Do what you can. Take the points you're supposed to take. If there's an opportunity like Brad alluded to earlier where you can, on special teams, make a trick play and take advantage, do it. But don't try to take advantage on, like, we're talking like 4th and 7. You know what I mean? Like, within the contract, like within the confines of the game, make the play or put your team in a position to make plays. Don't try to do too much as the coach. And he's had a back and forth with the GOAT all year, calling them out in public and everything, but it seemed to work. I mean, they're in the Super Bowl where they're supposed to be, supposedly. So whatever buttons he's pushed the right ones. So don't go too crazy and try to push, all these kind of crazy buttons. Just coach your game. And like it said, like Rocky 4, not Rocky 3, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. So, don't coach scared, but don't try to do too much.
Yeah, and you know what also Mickey said about Clever Lane? He'll eat you alive, Rock. I seen him fight out there, Rock. Don't mess with him. But that's what the Chiefs.
He'll not be tomorrow, Rock. Exactly.
Look, that's Clever Lane. Clever Lane is the Chiefs that first fight. Look,
how are you going to tell another grown man he'll knock you into tomorrow? You going to tell another grown man he'll knock you into tomorrow? Think about that.
It was in the script. Clever Lane. Listen, I got a T-shirt with Clever Lane on it, and it says prediction. Clever Lane looked at the reporter and said, "Hey, look, you got."
I'm about to go home and watch that movie now.
Exactly.
I got the whole set. Okay, so Brad, your thoughts on what Bruce Arians has to do? And you said, who else can debate it? Well, you hear who's debating the GOAT talk, so you have that right here at the roundtable too. But your thoughts on what Bruce Arians has to do to help Brady solidify this for one left in the world that thinks that Brady is not that guy or that animal or whatever you want to put.
Well, I think Arians, you guys made a lot of great points, and one that I tend to agree with is I think he has to be calculated about when he decides to take those shots, to take those deep shots, because you want to get some of those plays in. But I think you hit it on the head when you said sometimes it's almost like he outthinks himself. 3rd and 1, you take a deep ball down the sideline. Just run an out route, run a slant, and just pick up the first down and keep the drive alive. I think he's going to have to be calculated as far as when and where to take those shots and be a little more methodical in this one. You don't want to try to, like I said before, you don't want to get in a track meet with these guys. And so I think for him, it's they don't want to get too reliant on the passing game. I've been saying this earlier as well. I think balance is key. In the macro, I think he's going to have to be patient with the running game because I think that is where Kansas City is vulnerable. I really think that they have a big advantage in the run game in being able to move the chains and keep these drives alive. And Arians, being a guy who really likes to lean on the pass, he likes to air it out, going up against a team that's high-powered like Kansas City, if Kansas City can get a lead, will Bruce Arians be patient with the run, or will he be quick to abandon it and try to play in a shootout? I don't think that's going to be the right formula in this one. So I think Arians is going to have to be patient, run the ball, and try to be a little more methodical than he typically is. Maybe get away from some of those big shots and just be calculated with those. But I also think we talked about Andy Reid and how he's got all these play designs, these great play designs. He's always got some wrinkles. He's always got a few plays you haven't seen. I think Arians is going to have to come up with some plays as well. I'd really like to see Arians come out with a few plays that Kansas City hasn't seen. Maybe a few trick plays. Maybe we see a flea flicker. Maybe we see a wide receiver pass. You know, maybe something that they're not really expecting to try to get a big chunk play in this game. But I think he's going to have to be smart about when to play that card. And if he's got a few of those wrinkles, if he's got some tricks up his sleeve, so to speak, but if he can stick to the game plan and try to have a balanced attack, I really think that's how you beat Kansas City.
It's 2021, and I didn't think a valuable lesson was told to me 20 years ago in 2001. And everybody, well, majority of people that know me for a good time, my favorite rapper was Beanie Siegel. And he said, keep it simple. Less is more. And when he said it at that time, it was like, I understand what you're saying. He didn't try to put a lot of the product out there because he had more to come. You know what I'm saying? And just to be compact. Now, I have Eric Gross here, a.k.a. Big Easy, and he just came off of a bittersweet Super Bowl loss last year, right? And the crazy part about it was all they had to do was run the ball. They were beating Kansas City, and they were up double digits. And then somebody smart named Shanahan wants to start passing the ball and make it easier for Kansas City to get back into the game. Even in the presser after the game, Honey Badger was like, once they started passing, I said, thank God, because they couldn't stop the run. If they have a problem with the run and start to work with it, you have a healthy Leonard Fournette. This is the name that nobody said all night. Leonard Fournette has not been the name that has been mentioned. You have a guy in him. You also have Rojo that's been doing his thing. And maybe, I don't know if he has it in him, but this is a Super Bowl again for Shady McCoy. Like, Shady's there too. So they have running backs that could probably get you 3 to 5 yards. I want to be fair. Like, I know they could probably stretch the chains as best as possible. But if they can work that run game and make Kansas City start to bite down to that line of scrimmage, and then that opens up play action, and then Brady could tear them up with Gronk and all of the stuff up over the top, and maybe if Antonio Brown is healthy enough to kill these guys, that can work in their favor. This is where I'm talking about less is more. Let that run game efficiently work against that defense and open the passing game up for one of Bruce Arians' specialties, and that's in that passing game. I really think that this could really be a real good chess match. I really feel like points will be on the board. I don't think this will be a low-scoring affair. I really feel like this could be a 31-27 type of game. The potential could be there for like a 38-35. I don't know if we get our popcorn ready for that type of game, but I feel like we will be excited as much as possible with these two going against each other. There's a lot more that I wanted to get into, at least in the NFL. I want to save it at least probably for tomorrow because we have the cookout, and I definitely wanted to dig into the trade, but that's at least 45 minutes into my heart that I wanted to throw out there. But it was great to get you guys in here as best as possible. I want to get a good closeout. This is our first syndicated show also, and this has been epic. Is there anything that you guys would like to add before we do start to do our closeouts toward any aspect of the game? Because I do have to get at least a pick from Brad. Unless you're coming here Sunday, then I can wait another day for you, Brad. But I do have to feel how you feel about this game also. But anything else before I get the pick from Brad?
Brady's the GOAT. You know it.
Wait, did I?
You know it. Montana's the GOAT. No, you know what? I want to say I think we kind of talked about it a little bit. Like, I think this is obviously the marquee matchup is Mahomes versus Brady, the new legend versus the old legend. I think Mahomes has got the shot to really chase after the legend of Tom Brady, the GOAT. And I don't think he'll get there. I think it's such a tall task. I mean, Brad mentioned it. I mean, he's been in the Super Bowl every other year practically. I mean, just think about that. He's been in this league for 19, 20 seasons. He's been in the Super Bowl 10 seasons. I mean, do you see, even with Mahomes' greatness, do you see him pulling off something like that, getting to the Super Bowl every other year with his contract, with the talent, trying to keep like Hill and Kelsey in a Chiefs uniform, defensive guys like it's just. It's just not going to happen. It's so much of a tall task for them. I just don't see it happening. And and it's not any slight to Mahomes. It's just saying, what he's done in this league, Tom Brady, is so hard to duplicate. It's just not going to be realistic for anybody to do it. And I don't know what you guys think. I think Mahomes is the guy that can do it, but I just don't think he will.
Yeah. That's a good old a bowl of cricket soup. Nobody's complaining, nobody's debating, man. Listen, there's one, but then it's like you got to prove it to them, and then they'll be like, well, he got to do this. He got to have a 500-yard passing day, and his passer rating got to be 158.3, and everything has to go perfect. Like I don't know what else the argument has. I don't know. Okay, so I need plugs and closeouts from each of you. But before we do, Mr. Fowler, thank you for stopping by. I need a pick on this game. Unless you're stopping by Sunday morning, I know you probably got other obligations. But who do you like in this game, Kansas City or Tampa Bay?
Well, I'll tell you what, this one's tough because I went back and forth on this for a long time. I still feel like I'm on the fence in a lot of ways. You've got two great teams. I think we're in store for a great matchup. This could be the greatest quarterback Super Bowl matchup ever. It's really that crazy of a matchup. I think it's going to be just an outstanding ball game. I think it'll be close. I'd be really surprised if we saw a blowout in this game. But with all that being said, I'm going to take the underdog, and I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this one. I think the line of scrimmage is where this game is going to be won or lost, and I think Tampa Bay has the edge on the D-line, and I think they have the edge on the O-line because the Chiefs' O-line is banged up right now. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I think they just have an advantage where it matters the most. I know we all love to talk about wide receivers and quarterbacks and all the flashy players, but those big boys up front, they tend to decide these ball games, and I like Tampa Bay's big guys more than Kansas City's in this one.
All right, and also give me a plug, close out anything that you like to promote or shout out as we close the doors here on the roundtable.
Yeah, I want to say thank you guys. This has been an absolute blast. Really, really appreciate you guys having me on the show. Such a fun topic. Breaking this down with you guys has been so much fun. I'd really love to come on again. But for all you guys listening, if you guys didn't catch it in the beginning, I'm the host of Pint Glass Football Podcast. It's available on Apple, Spotify, Google, all the main players. We talk NFL and college football. It's a weekly show. Season 2 is just going to be wrapping up here in a few days, but Season 3 is going to start in April, right around the draft. We do a whole bunch of draft coverage, so check it out, guys. I hope you guys do, and thank you guys again. It's been an absolute blast.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Coast to coast, we're doing it. Okay, and hopefully we get you back. I mean, we still got this topic going all week. Tomorrow, like Sunday, I know Thursday is basketball, but you'll come and get your plate, believe me. And you know what? We're already dealing with one of your Steelers fans that don't agree with you. And I'm gonna let him get his plug and close out as we get up out of here on the roundtable. Sirius, you know what to do.
Man, it's your boy Sirius repping that 412 and the 703. Man, it's such a pleasure to be here with you guys on the first syndicated show, the Roundtable, man. You know, it's such a pleasure to be doing this thing with a couple of guys who just, really just have a dream. You know what I'm saying? So definitely good to be there. Definitely check us out, man. We on www.sportcitychefs.com, the website, the blog. Barry and I are, putting pen to pad and trying to come up with some things. So definitely check that out, man. We got some stuff coming up behind the scenes. I'm not going to, tip my cap for that, but we got some stuff coming there. Also, check me out. We launching my own little podcast, kind of doing a little bit of what we do here. Just to, give another edition of Serious, man. I love doing this. I love doing this, and the good Lord has blessed me with a voice and an opinion, which is a dangerous combination, man. But, yo, man, Lord willing, I'll be back in here tomorrow, man. Do what we do, man. God bless you. Gotta be safe, man. Catch you guys later.
All right, Eric, you already know what to do. Shut it down. Here we close the doors at the roundtable.
Yeah, as always, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks, Brad, for coming on. It's been really good having your insight and talking football with us. And check us out, sportcitychefs.com, Power 103 Radio. And we'll see you back here tomorrow night, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Epic. Help me. He helped me, man. That's what I'm talking about. Sports City. He helped me, man. Barry, shut this thing down and here at the roundtable.
Brad, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you guys listen to his podcast. I love his show. He does good stuff over there at Pint Glass Football. I'm sure we'll have another roundtable. We'll definitely listen. Football is all year round, man. Even when the Super Bowl is over, there's off season to talk about draft. So I'm sure we want to do a draft special. Talk some football here. The resident Giant fan, we need to get some help in New York a little bit there. But listen. Sport City, check out the website, sportcitychefs.com. Like Sirius said, we're doing podcasts. We're on there. We got the blogs we're doing. We got the new merchandise on sale. Sport City Chefs T-shirts and coffee mugs, more coming with that. So, listen, we doing it big, man. We got plans, man. We got big plans. Like Biggie said on the first album, we got plans, baby. Big plans. But, we're doing a lot of good. Thank you to Power 103 in Connecticut. We're working together. We're going to do some great things this year. This is our year, man. This is Sports City Chefs' year. Brady is the GOAT. Sirius knows it. I love you, brother. Eric, as always, it's always a pleasure being with you. See you guys tomorrow. The Villain.
Man, I can't say much more, man. I'm thankful to have brothers around me, man. People that's in my corner. Going through a lot right now in Sport City, but the one good thing is, if you ever watch Coming to America, when they were at the pageant, he had everybody screaming joy. That's right. So with this week right now, the Super Bowl is in front of us. I feel like it's Christmas because the Super Bowl is here, and I got to talk sports with my brothers, including another one on the other side of the country, and had a blast with them. SportCityChefs.com. Check out the website, the blog, the interviews, me, my co-host, the Villain, my counterpart. We go at it every day, but we form like Voltron one way or another and make this thing go down. Y'all already know how this goes down. Hopefully we can get Brad back in here. Great insight, great conversation. No dead zones. This is all cooked food. On that note, tell a friend that it's the chefs again. And if they don't know, now they know.
Sport City, chefs. Sport City, chefs. Sport City, chefs. Sport City, kaboom. Sport City Chefs is in the room, cooking up hot topics to put up on your spoon. They well in tune, bloom like a flower in June. Superman versus MF Doom, the clouds loom. So tell a friend it's the Sport City Chefs again. Pay attention, tune in, we on the set again. Sport City, chefs. Sport City, chefs. Yeah.
Connecticut.